Dear Miss Lemon, from information I received while using a Ouija board, I believe that there will be an attempt to assassinate you. The spirit that gave me this information was Brian Epstein. He said the attempt was made in place of March 6th, 70, and Mr. Epstein also said that Paul McCartney was alive in London. Is that true? Please take this letter serious, because I would very much prefer you to be alive in it.
So that was pretty haunting. That was a clip of John Lennon reading about the Ouija board being played with and predicting his death. The specifics weren't necessarily there, but still, it's a little haunting to hear that audio clip.
Yeah, dude, that's kind of creepy.
And I kind of accidentally ran across that. I wasn't even aware of that being out there. But for people who aren't familiar with the whole, how it all went down, it's a little creepy. You can actually go on to like John Lennon's Wikipedia page, and just the day of his death has its own page.
Yeah, it's weird. There's a lot of different weird stuff about that day, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. He signed one of his albums. He autographed for Mark David Chapman before he killed him a couple hours before it, as he was going in the studio. Also, well, I mean, Mark David Chapman's completely fucking crazy, but Jared Leto played Mark David Chapman in a like kind of a biopic called The Chapter 27 that came out about 3-4 years ago. Jared Leto gained like 80 pounds.
Yeah, dude, he looks rough in that movie.
Fucking creepy. He's got like, he just looks greasy, nasty. Lindsay Lohan's in it also, but she's not really in it very much. She's like a friend of his or something. But I mean, it's unsettling to like look at it from his point of view, like, because he obviously was crazy. Aside of the fact that he was a huge fan of Lennon's. I mean, it was like an obsessive thing. It was like, if I can't have you, no one will, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's completely fucking twisted to even try and walk a day in the shoes of somebody like that.
And like, it's not like all he was a musician. I mean, he made a big impact on the world, don't get me wrong, but like,
Well, the Beatles is, I mean, if you talk about amount of money made, records sold, this and that, they're the most successful band ever.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. But why
they're probably the biggest thing to ever have happened to music.
Why do that? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I guess I just don't understand people.
They got a lot of criticism for saying that they were bigger than God, but I mean, they kind of are.
Well,
plenty of people that, I mean, if you look at God in a universal sense, no, because I mean, there's people believing in God way before the Beatles. But
yeah.
If you're talking about modern day and you're talking about like a Christian God, they're probably just as popular.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty nuts.
You could go to old Amish country and go up to one of those guys with the white beard and be like, "Do you know who the Beatles are?" And they'd be like, "Yes." Yes.
You probably go out into
Paul McCartney, yes.
Yeah.
John Lennon, yes. Ringo Starr, yes.
You could probably go out. You could pretty much go anywhere. Probably Ethiopia. They know who the hell John Lennon is. Day of his death. Also, there's kind of like a historical. Like Rolling Stone was doing an interview with him, and Yoko Ono. Nobody wanted Yoko Ono to be in the picture, but he was always like wanting Yoko Ono to be in his pictures with him. He loved her a lot, and a lot of people don't like her because it seems like, well, she's accused of breaking up the Beatles, and there's so many reasons that people don't like her.
There's a lot of drama between Lennon and his bandmates over her.
Yeah. I mean, one thing you have to respect John Lennon for, aside of everything else he's done, but he loved that woman.
Oh yeah, hands down. He was infatuated with her.
I mean, that was love. I mean, that's one of the greatest examples I've ever seen of just love.
I love you the way black is black. Anyway.
Others now, the discussion of Lennon's death also kind of ties in with controversies in the sense of governmental or celebrity death conspiracies. We kind of wanted to talk a little bit.
The only conspiracy that I've ever read about Lennon's death is that he supposedly knew spiritually about his death, and that's one of the things that I've read in the past about his death conspiracy was just that that he kept predicting his death and joking about how he was going to die soon and stuff like that.
Yeah, The way the story, actually, another thing I wanted to talk about before I had forgotten about it. I was actually watching ESPN. We kind of always have it running in the background at work. And they were talking about how Yoko Ono was pissed off that on Monday Night Football that Howard Cosell had broke the news about. I mean, that's like how everybody, like the majority of people had found out
about it.
You know, they were like the first ones to break the news.
Yeah.
And it was like it was like too soon in the sense that like Yoko didn't even have the time to tell Sean or, to explain anything to him. And it was already on TV, and she got all pissed off about that and shit and called ABC. And also other celebrity death conspiracies, which are, I guess, more so that we can relate to because it's happened in our generation, is like the Biggie, Tupac death conspiracies. Also, you can look back historically at the Marilyn Monroe, JFK conspiracies also. Maybe, I guess, we'll go ahead and address the older ones. Marilyn Monroe found dead in her room. There's all kinds of like wild different analyses on what happened exactly.
Overdose, but yet, over 50 bruises and lacerations on her body.
Right. And there's speculation that it happened. There's like conflicting autopsy reports that like they happened like before this all actually going down, like her taking all these pills, or they happened afterwards. There's a belief that like somebody crawled up through the window and like raped her, and there's just all these wild conspiracies.
I can tell you what really happened.
Go for it.
JFK got caught red-handed fucking that bitch, and Secret Service took care of it. That's what happened. No, I'm just joking, but that's the main conspiracy behind that.
Yeah, that's part of it, and I mean, you have to talk about JFK whenever you talk about, death conspiracies. A lot of people think that it was an inside job, that it was the CIA.
Yep.
A lot of people think it was the CIA job. That
it was, man. Don't you know?
Well, the fallout, and maybe we'll talk about like why they think that. They think because the Bay of Pigs mess up, how all that information was leaked, and it wasn't really the mission that they had set it out to be, and all the Cold War problems that they were having at the time, and kind of the standoffs, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, all these factors tied in. The CIA was kind of, it's too far fetched for me. I don't believe that. Like, I'm like really cynical of our government and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's a little bit too far of a leap. I mean, call me fucking gullible or whatever you may be, optimistic. Whatever you want to label me as, if I don't believe that and you do.
Yeah.
But it's just silly.
I mean, are we talking about JFK in general, or just like?
Well, his death conspiracy, the theories behind it. Supposedly, Lee Harvey Oswald fired off with this hand-loaded rifle.
I'm going to tell you right now, dude, this rifle is one of the worst military rifles ever released.
It's got a lot of bad defects, too, locking or jamming.
You can barely cock the bolt at all in this gun. So this dude, in 12 seconds, pulls off 3 shots, has time to get down out of the whatever it's called, the book repository or whatever.
Yeah.
And run to a bus, and then run another couple blocks, kill a cop. And he did this all within 20 minutes?
Yeah, it just
took 3 shots at a president in a moving vehicle.
It seems unbelievable, but they've tested with expert marksmen and stuff, and they've been able to like recreate it, but barely. They used a watermelon, but I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that also. The pressure in the certain circumstance.
Yeah,
and how easily he got out of there. I mean,
well, the only thing that creeped me out about it was JFK's wife. She turned around after he was shot, and she told that Secret Service member, she goes, "They finally killed him. They got tired of it, and they finally killed him." That's what she kept screaming on the back of the motorcade.
I haven't heard that before, but maybe I have. I don't know.
And then another thing is the dude gets shot in the back of the head, but do you see which direction his head goes?
Right, and that's a lot of like how his head whipped. That's like another. There's this theory also, the ricocheting bullet theory.
The magic bullet is what it's called. How it tumbled through his body and then hit the senator and
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of unanswered questions. Like, okay, I'm going to tell you. Do I believe that our government was responsible for that? No. Do I believe that people inside of our government were responsible for that? Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, if you believe that Lee Harvey Oswald, I mean, he has a military background.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, technically you could say, yeah.
But they set him up for that, too. I think he was involved. Don't get me wrong. I definitely think Lee Harvey Oswald was involved, but he was the one that was supposed to take the fall for it, and I don't think he was aware of it.
That was kind of a decade at that time for assassinating people. I mean, you got to think of all the great minds that were assassinated. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, his brother, and him. It's any kind of progressive thinker that was starting to break through. It's just like, okay, we're going to assassinate him. We're going to kill him. And
he's getting too powerful. Let's kill him.
I kind of have a theory about all of it. I think personally that Conservative Party did it. Not maybe so necessarily directly, but you have to think.
It's the same mindset that causes stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lashing out against what they were doing.
Anybody that will stand up and speak against them must go.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like the Tea Party.
It kind of, and it frightens me. You can draw a lot of comparisons today to stuff back then. Anytime that something progressive happens, like, for example, don't ask, don't tell policy. You know
what scares me?
What's that?
It makes too many similarities to the Nazi Party.
Oh yeah,
and that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, there's no question.
Especially with how popular
it's funny because they try to use this brand of socialization, and say that Obama's a socialist, and that he's Hitler and everything else. But
look at how they act.
Their tactics are the same.
Do I like Obama? No. But do I sit there and say, oh my God, he's like Hitler? No, I don't say that. You know what I'm saying?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Anytime there's any kind of progressive thinking in this country, it's like, the conservative movement is against progressive government whatsoever.
Yep. Change.
But I guess we're kind of getting off on the politics here, but we will move on from that and work up to something a little bit more relevant to us, and that's Biggie and Tupac. We were watching some Tupac.
Okay, first of all, David or Jordy, whatever the fuck you're called, I don't know. Dr. Jordy P.I. is the shirt he was wearing the other day at work, but anyway. So this guy, Friday, tells me, oh, you guys are going to talk about conspiracy theories on your next show, right? Well, you should check out this video about Tupac, man. They caught him on camera. Okay, man.
Was he being serious about it?
Yes. And I'm like, this is all I got to say to you, Jordy. Dude, that was completely fake. Like, you can completely tell that was faked. I mean, it was horrible quality. It was just jumping around. Like, I don't believe that at all. I'm sorry, man. I don't know. It was ridiculous, dude. If you guys want to check this out, go to Google and type in Tupac is alive, and it's this black guy in this yellow Gilligan Island hat and a yellow sweater, and he's like, hey man, Tupac just came out the recording studio. I'm about to catch him on camera. I'm going to go around this corner. He's over there with the Outlaws right now. Can you dig it? But anyway, yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous, man. I'm sorry, Jordy. That was... Never again will I take advice from you.
Yeah,
I'm just joking, buddy.
I love whenever you put in Tupac conspiracy, like how much shit that you get. I mean, it's just like, that's the only word to describe what comes up is just fecal matter.
And then they had this video of this like 50-year-old dude, which Tupac's not even like 50. He
Yeah.
wouldn't even be 50 right now. And they have this like 50-year-old dude that just is, that's making his own album. They have like a picture of him. And only thing that he looks like the same with Tupac is he has that mustache like Tupac did. That's it. He's bald and he had that mustache.
I thought that guy was white. He looked white to me.
He almost did. And they're like, oh, he has the same tattoos. Okay, you're telling me I can't go down to the fucking tattoo parlor right now and get Tupac's tattoos and claim that I'm him?
Yeah.
I've seen Tupac's fucking autopsy picture online, and let me tell you, it looks just like Tupac. I believe that first before I believe any of the bullshit that's on YouTube.
Yeah, they're trying to like, oh, this isn't Tupac, and they're showing the autopsy picture or whatever, photo, whatever, video. What's funny about it is automatically my mind went to the alien autopsy, the Roswell ones of the 50s and shit. Yeah. That's exactly where my mind went.
Yep. If you guys want to check out this autopsy picture too, I'll go ahead and plug it's a Celebrity Morgue. You can Google Celebrity Morgue and it'll take you to all the famous celebrities that have died in their pictures. They even have JFK's brain on there, so it's pretty cool.
I believe that's where I saw. I don't remember how I had heard about it, but I found the killing or the hanging of Saddam Hussein.
Yep. That video was on Celebrity
That
Morning.
was nuts. Like, I feel like it's fake for some reason.
I do too.
Like, I just can't believe what I'm seeing.
Yeah, how the fuck do you
It
take
looks
this
kinda fake.
mass murder fucking dictator and just release him to his own people to be hung? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't believe that America would do that, but I don't know.
They had said that like the security was so tight that there wasn't any, cell phones or anything in that area. But I mean, obviously it wasn't that tight because that was a cell phone.
Yeah, one of the new Iraqi democracy members actually had a cell phone and started recording it.
Aside of Tupac, going on to Biggie, there's conspiracies that Biggie was shot by Puff Daddy.
Yeah, because
and that Tupac never actually died and he shot Biggie to get back at him. That Suge Knight shot at Biggie. I mean, there's all kinds of fucking rumors or conspiracy.
There's this one video, dude, and it's you can see the Biggie, the execution basically on tape. They have it on YouTube, and there's this one that this guy did, and he's like pointing all these arrows to all these random people that you can't even see their faces, and he's like, this is Puff Daddy. It's standing outside the vehicle.
Yeah.
And there's a shot, and then this guy runs. So Puff Daddy then shot Biggie and then took off running. I'm like, dude,
what a dumbass,
how the
man.
fuck can you tell that that's Puff Daddy?
Jackass!
What Where do these people get off on making these shitty little clips?
I'll tell you exactly what this is all deals with, and it's fucking money. It's all an attempt to make fucking money.
You damn right.
That's all it is. I remember how much like media coverage that they had like on MTV and different news networks whenever all this stuff happened. I was just getting old enough to be aware of those sort of things, and they made so much money. The memorabilia, the rest in peace shirts, and then they actually had movies that came out. And now, like, the only thing that was hard for me to grasp whenever I was younger was how Tupac kept releasing albums and movies.
I wrote the song a long time ago.
That's what
a real long time ago.
I wanted to talk about that Dave Chappelle skit also. But if you haven't seen it, it's actually on the Lost episodes. And Dave Chappelle is basically making fun of all of that. And there's a girl dancing in the club, and he's like, "You got the doo-doo stain on your back." What is it? Man, I fucked it up. No, you got that Hershey stain on your back. I think it's doo-doo. Yeah. And it's like, he's like, when all of you voted for George W. And then he's like, George W. Florence, he ran for mayor, or ran for senator in this really small town. And, it's like, he starts saying stuff that's relevant to the time now, but then he like goes back and is like, explains it.
Yeah, on how he could know that.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking hilarious. I think that the drummer from The Roots, Questlove, is in that also. He's like the DJ in the skit.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in, he did quite a few cameos on the Chappelle Show.
Chappelle Show. I love the Chappelle Show.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't write this one down, but I want to also talk about this conspiracy because I thought it was the biggest and funniest hoax ripoff that I've seen ever. When those two guys claimed they found Bigfoot and they made that fake body.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and applaud these guys right now. I mean,
people were into that.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, they got paid money to reveal this fake body on national TV.
Yeah.
And then it was a fucking hoax.
Man, there were so many people pissed off about that too. That was fucking...
I thought it was hilarious, dude. It just shows you how big of a grasp media has on America.
It kind of goes along with this isn't necessarily conspiracy theory or anything, but it's kind of the hoax sort of thing. Is I don't know if anybody's seen the YouTube clip in Mobile, Alabama, where they have found a leprechaun, supposedly. I've actually got some sound clips kind of queued up for it.
Others just
here.
came to get lucky in hopes a pot of gold may be buried under this tree.
I'm gonna run a backhoe and uproot that tree. I want to know where to go. What? I want to go. Give me the gold. I want to go.
To me, it looked like a leprechaun to me. All you gotta do is look up in the tree.
They had like eyewitness reports on here.
So a dwarf got in a tree, and everybody thinks that there's gold under this tree now.
Yeah.
Who else seen the leprechaun say yeah?
This is the funniest part of it. Is this guy?
This is a special leprechaun flute, which has been passed down from thousands of years ago from my great-great-grandfather who was Irish. I just came to help out.
Mind you, everybody in this video is black. If you haven't seen it, pull up the YouTube and just type in Mobile Leprechaun, and it will pull it right up.
That's awesome.
They also had like an eyewitness sketch
Of the leprechaun?
Yeah, and it's
Was
like
it Troy Burns?
Eyewitnesses say the leprechaun only comes out at night. If you shine a light in its direction, it suddenly disappears.
it's all it
fucking
is.
ridiculous.
All the eyewitness report is a Crayola drawing of a leprechaun, and it looks like a 2-year-old drew it. No joke.
It
And
probably did.
it was an adult who drew it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're dead serious. The guy who had the leprechaun flute, he was black. I'm not saying that he wasn't Irish somehow, but it seems unlikely. We are going to go off to a break, and we're going to come back with a little bit more serious conspiracy topics and give you some
I'm
of our
fired up
views
for
on
that.
it. So.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Daryl Buchanan. Most know me as DJ. Swerving Podcasts on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Check in every Sunday for the episodes. I got a new podcast called the Big Hungry and Swerve Movie Podcast. I'll be every Wednesday on the same platform. Be sure to check that out. Also got a detailing business. Be sure to check that out. Swerve Auto Detail on Facebook, Instagram. My phone number is 573-327-1473. I run rates at $125 for a full inside and out detail. Have a summer package, you can get you 5 cleans for $225. Like I said, that's Swerve Auto Details on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm your boy, Swerving Podcast, baby.
What it do?
Back to that, maybe cover a little bit more on the JFK conspiracies aside of just his death. The other parties that weren't possibly involved, I had forgot to mention, we didn't do that part necessarily justice, was there was belief that the Cubans had actually, made that happen, his assassination. KGB in Russia.
Yeah.
Also, this is one of the huge ones, which I don't know why I didn't mention it earlier, the mafia. The Kennedy family is quote unquote tied into a lot of mafia conspiracy because Robert Kennedy, to dealing with Jimmy Hoffa and the mafia members, they were kind of doing racketeering through the unions and stuff like that. The mafia, because the government had to go through and kind of clean up all of that, the mafia was kind of taken out on the Kennedys, and then there's also conspiracy that why Robert Kennedy was assassinated also. The government itself, we talked about, possibly the CIA.
The E-40 team.
Right. Moving on from the JFK conspiracy, now we covered a little bit of ground that we wanted to revisit.
I mean, one more thing to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that.
But I really don't like it. But he did cover the JFK assassination, and he did have an ex-Secret Service member that on his deathbed that was dying from cancer, on his deathbed admitted to taking part in the JFK assassination. Like, they had an operation name, and he was told to stand down if anything happened and all kinds of stuff.
The thing that...
and it's proven that he really is.
It kind of... With that Jesse Ventura show, though, it seems like he always... and I know we've talked about it on here before, is that he kind of, like, bullies people into stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, I know
Scares
necessarily
them into saying stuff.
That doesn't really necessarily fall in suit with that. But also, it kind of reminds me of... I remember whenever I went to church, and we were told, at my church specifically, that on Charles Darwin's deathbed that he admitted that creationism was fake. And that he had like a Christian like bed made of some sort or whatever. And then there was a book written about it, and which inspired a book, and that that's obviously, that's a part of like, he was saying that he was coming to terms with God and death in itself, and supposedly, he'd seen the light as far as Christianity, and that evolution itself was fake.
A hoax. Yeah.
And I'm like, how?
Well, you can't say that evolution is a hoax because we've proven that evolution is real.
They use, it's like, it's almost like they're misusing the term, though. It's like, they say evolution is it's kind of an umbrella term because there's different things involved in evolution itself. You know, they say evolution whenever they really mean the Big Bang. You know, sometimes that the Big Bang didn't really happen, or maybe they don't believe that we've evolved from apes. Okay, that's fine, but there's tons of evidence that we, as humankind, that have evolved,
or any animal,
or any other animal, you know, we changed and we adapted in our environments. And they say, you know, like one of the arguments against that is, okay, why aren't people changing now? Because it's such a slow, and my response to that is,
it's a billion-year process.
Yeah, it's such a slow process that it's not something that you're going to notice overnight or even necessarily in a lifespan.
And you know, the thing about it is nowadays, us as humans modify ourselves so much that you're not going to find a change. All of our advances in technology, you know, people are, you know, medicines and surgeries and everything. You know, you're not going to be able to recognize these changes because if there is anything different, there's a doctor out there that wants to fucking fix it.
And that's another thing that I think is a little silly, is, you know, how the conservative movement's all like anti-promotion of the climate and conserving our natural resources and such now, which is kind of funny because they used to be, you know, like you think like Teddy Roosevelt. He was
a big conservationist.
Yeah, he was a huge he was one who initiated a lot of the conservation things that were tied into the government and created all the programs. And
you know, how he got his name Teddy, right? Or you know why teddy bears are called teddy bears?
Yeah,
yeah.
And he's Teddy Roosevelt himself. Aside of just being, you know, conservationist, you know, he was known as a daredevil. You know, he was
the dude was fucking crazy.
He was a fucking man, dude.
Yeah,
he's first president to ride a submarine and all this other stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. Go on these fucking bear hunts with just a horse.
Yeah,
him, a gun, and a horse.
Yeah. He is a fucking man's man.
Hell yeah, dude.
And we wouldn't have Hawaii if it wasn't for old Teddy Roosevelt.
Amen. BJ Penn, you wouldn't have him.
Taking all that sugar, son.
And Spam and Reese's.
And he's also a distant relative of Franklin Roosevelt.
Yep.
One of FDR, one of our greatest, Delano Roosevelt, one of our greatest presidents ever. Just a little history lesson for you children.
Chitlins.
So conspiracy theories that we have to address. We've kind of plugged these documentaries before, but not even really talked a lot about them. Loose Change
is excellent.
Is a fantastic 9/11 conspiracy documentary.
But
and
what I will
please, let's give a little disclaimer before we get into this. Though, also, don't take everything that's in these as gospel. I mean, it's all.
It's a theory.
Propaganda is propaganda.
Yeah.
Whether, you know, the things are skewed to come out to a certain way, to look a certain way to you. Now, we're not saying like everything that is in this is fabricated or anything like that. But, you know, if you want people, if you want people to think something's evil, like in a movie, just, you know, a cinematic movie, a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
There's certain ways you're going to shoot the scene. You're going to write the script, pick the lines, how they're going to dress to get that point across.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily that you're, I guess maybe that's a bad example because they're creating something, but, you know, with documentaries, there's always something that is driven. There's a point, you know, that they're trying to get across. Yeah. There's something that's inspiring this, so they're taking it from that point of view. It's not a completely unbiased thing.
Well, I mean, this is one thing I will say about Loose Change, though, is in the original stuff, it, like you said, it was more of a theory, you know, propaganda, stuff like that.
Yeah.
In the new one, though, the one that released last year in 2009, they actually have supporting factual evidence to back up some of their claims.
Well, I mean, they've always had like a little bit a factual basis.
Yeah.
I just think it's evolved. It's become a little bit more professional, and it's that the 9/11 conspiracies also are all kind of like rivaling each other also, though.
Yeah.
Because that is becoming so popular. And another huge one is the Zeitgeist movies.
They're awesome.
They're really good, but I think, again, people take them way too serious, take them to the heart. And one of the problems that I have with the Zeitgeist ones is the government. Like, I absolutely love the religion parts.
Yeah.
I have no problem with those whatsoever. The first one, they start the movie out with a quote from George Carlin, which I think is like one of the greatest comedians of all time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to start out your documentary with like some kind of quote from him or something,
I wish we could.
It's already top notch. Yeah. But whenever he actually got into the government parts, that was kind of like me, kind of on. You go ahead and not pay your taxes and tell me what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I mean, they are right, though. There is no federal law stating that you must pay taxes.
There is.
Well, there is now.
It's
but
not in the Constitution.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But that's like what people try
Constitutionally.
to. That's what people try to. Or it's
But,
not
wait
the
a minute, wait a
Declaration of
minute, wait a minute.
Independence. That's why people try to argue.
But do we follow anything that's in the Constitution anyway?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Freedom of press, freedom of
Right.
speech,
Yeah.
Do we follow any
We
of
talked
that?
when we talked, and that ties in with our censorship.
Exactly.
episode,
That's
you
what
know?
I'm saying. I mean, people are pissed. Oh, well, you don't have to pay taxes because it's not in the Constitution. Well, if you go and you try to print a newspaper that says, I'm going to kill the fucking president, do you think you're going to be able to keep printing that paper?
No, not at all.
Exactly.
Because, see, that though that is subject, again, it kind of comes into the lemon test that I talked about before, is, whenever it's like, there's a certain line, though, that it's like freedom of speech, but then it goes into a threat or bigotry,
Yeah, but
slander or something, and then
according to our
once it reaches
forefathers, we
that
should be able to
point,
say whatever the fuck we want to say.
well, I think that there still was a little
Law,
bit of a,
regulation.
yeah, because you can't infringe upon other people's rights.
Yeah, true. True. I know. I'm just making a generalized statement with that.
You're mostly correct about it. Like I said, if you're gonna try and not pay your taxes, I'd like to see what's happening with that.
Please make a documentary on that. You not paying your taxes.
Some of the stuff that's a little disturbing is how. Maybe I'm getting my documentaries mixed up a little bit here. I think didn't they address the Pentagon?
Well, you talking
how
about like the New World Order,
No.
World Order signs and stuff like that?
No,
or-
no, no. I'm talking about because the Pentagon also was. A lot of people forget that the Pentagon had a plane flown into it also.
Yeah.
But the Pentagon is supposed to have like this defense system built into it where it shoots stuff out of the sky and everything else. But just conveniently, they were supposed to have a meeting right where a plane had flown into the Pentagon, and the meeting was scheduled conveniently like an hour and a half or 30 minutes right before the plane flew into it.
Yep. And
To an entirely different part of the building.
Yeah.
And that part.
You want to hear something else tricky about that? That side of the Pentagon was the only side of the Pentagon where the walls were built to withstand a plane being flown into them.
Right. So, that's like, and that kind of makes you wonder. Something, everybody always 9/11, everybody just thinks about the planes that have flown in the World Trade Center buildings themselves. The two tall ones.
They forget
the
about
sister
Flight
buildings
93
they're talking
too.
about. They forget about the other building that the planes were flown into in New York. They forget about Flight 93, which Flight 93 does get more publicity than
here recently
that or the Pentagon.
Yeah.
But the reason that they do get the recognition that they do is because it's such an American hero's story or whatever.
With Flight 93, yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't or anything. I definitely think that what they did was courageous, overtook
If that's
the
what
plane.
really happened, then I do think that was a courageous move. But you know where I stand on that whole thing anyway.
Let's hear it.
Well, I am a member.
Swinging for the fences here.
I am a member of the Investigate 9/11 group. You can check it out on Google by typing in it's like Seek the Truth, Investigate 9/11. I'm part of that movement. I also, I don't know, man. I just don't believe that coordinated of attack could have been done by 7 people.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that just don't make any sense. But
how does a guy that's only been in flight school for 3 weeks that didn't even pass his
Also,
test on a Cessna?
But you have to also remember that the Taliban is the whole reason this whole thing happened. Like, this was a master plan, which, you look at it face value and you say, okay, like say 30 years ago, somebody's going to predict that this is going to happen. Okay, and they tell you
Alex
that
Jones
the
did predict
factors.
it.
Fuck Alex Jones. We'll get a rain on his ass here in a second. But somebody predicts this. Let's say somebody predicts this 30 years ago, and says, gets into the details, but not necessarily the specifics, and says this terrorist cell or organization that has no legitimate home or body, as far as a place of establishment where they congregate or anything per se, that basically bounces around from cave to cave in the Middle East.
Yeah, and
It's
sells
going
opium to make money.
Is going to somehow plan an attack on America's heart of its economy, New York City.
It's military headquarters. It's economy. How would you say that? Economy headquarters.
It's like kind of an iconic. It's the building of American capitalism. You know, it's just what it symbolizes itself, and that's why they flew the planes into it. But if you were to say 30 years ago that there'd have been like, no way, that's it's not a real threat. There's no way that something like that could happen. This body of people, and are gonna be able to be insurgents into our society. Go to flight school, overcome these planes, fly these planes into this building. There's a lack of organization there. You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, if I'm on a fucking airliner and some Arabian stands up and fucking pulls out a box cutter and tells me to set the fuck down, I'm going to be like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? I'm serious. Does that fucking make any sense to anybody? So these guys stand up and pull out fucking box cutters and they go through a security door and in the front of a Boeing 747.
Well, the thing is that it wasn't just that they pulled out box cutters on dudes and shit, and were like, they took hostages, is what it was on the plane.
Well, yeah.
They grabbed the innocent, like women and
like
children and stuff, and threatened to kill them. And I mean, obviously, they were going to fly. They're killing themselves to fly planes and things, so they had no problem killing children.
My question to that, though, is how many people were on that plane versus them?
Oh, there's hundreds of people, but again, I'll go back to the hostage thing. Nobody wants to gamble
with
a kid dying. Life. Yeah.
Well, another thing is all these pilots on these 747s, when they go through their training and before they can become licensed to fly that big of a plane, they have to go through this training about if their plane is hijacked, and they all have to perform codes. Means
now there's all these stipulations, but before it was a little unorganized. I mean, that's again a part of the factors of how they easily overcame. But
just watch. Basically, all I'm telling you is to definitely educate yourself about the 9/11 conspiracies and then have your own opinion about it.
Yeah. There's also, this is a little reminiscent of the conspiracy that we knew about I mean, we did know about it to an extent, but that we had actually received threats that we were going to get kamikazed in Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
They didn't take it serious at the time. And, there's no way that they're going to do is fly across the Pacific and just fly their planes into our naval base. It seemed unbelievable. They didn't take it serious enough, and it was delayed also. So,
but yeah, they called it 0 hour, and that's basically when Japanese zeroed in on Pearl Harbor and attacked us. But we had substantial warnings from other intelligence agencies months before the Pearl Harbor attack was made. But in the president's defense, this was his mindset, was that, okay, they're threatening us, but could they actually pull this off? You know what I'm saying? Would they really do that? Would they really take that step and fuck with us? You know what I'm saying? That was the president's mindset. So with that, I kind of give him credit, and I don't really see that as much as a conspiracy because it happened.
Well, but also people say that exact same thing about 9/11.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they didn't take it as a serious enough threat.
Yeah. Which we did have warnings.
If you've seen Fahrenheit 9/11 with the Michael Moore documentary,
that fat fuck.
I'm not a big Michael Moore fan himself.
Me neither.
Just because he gets like really silly with it. It's like he takes it overboard.
Yeah.
It's like he's a really smart guy. He has a lot of potential to make them. I guess it's just for entertainment value is why he does it. I did love the shit that he did with the Westboro Baptist Church, though.
Yeah, that was cool.
He was following them around with the gay bus.
Yeah.
That was fucking hilarious.
But the thing about Michael Moore is when the government threatens you and you censor parts of your movies just because the government threatens you and you're making movies about government conspiracies, that's saying something about you as a filmmaker.
But that also comes with, you're not going to be able, he's not going to be able to sell that to a studio and release it on a mass market, though.
Yeah, and
Because
that's what he's a
don't want
filmmaker.
to take the chance
Yeah,
at
exactly.
that.
Yeah, he wants
That's
to make
why,
the money.
you know, these movies like Zeitgeist and stuff like that, these are
All
occultic.
underground.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, they have a cult following. It's all by hearsay.
Actually,
it's on the internet. Yeah, you can donate money and get actual hard copies of this stuff, but, you know, this all started out like just as a torrent. You know, somebody put up on the internet and got passed from person to person. And
like I said, Loose Change was a bunch of college students that made a theory, and then it grew into something more. So they're basically for educational purposes, though. That's what I was trying to get at. Most of these conspiracy movies are basically just to educate yourself and then for you to have your own opinion about it. They're not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. They're just basically making a statement on what they believe and letting other people have their own opinion about it.
right.
So
And
don't get pissed off if you don't agree with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just watch it and then see what you think. You know what I'm saying? Don't be like, oh, well, fuck that. You know, Osama bin Laden did make the 9/11 attacks happen. You know, quit being a fucking redneck and educate yourself on all views of it before you make an opinion.
And what I was starting to get to is that in Fahrenheit 9/11, they had the majority, I think, all but 2 of the hijackers on the 9/11 planes were Saudi Arabian, and that the Bush family are really good friends with the Saudi Arabian prince. Like all that part of it was
dude.
like, you know, really interesting, you know, and mind blowing. I was really young whenever that movie came out, you know, and I was first getting into conspiracy theory, and that also leads me into, I'd started questioning the government at the time and George Bush and blah, 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 blah. And, I was really unsure of myself and political views, you know, going through puberty as well as all the other fucking awkward things that happens to a kid.
Yeah.
But I also, and you had mentioned Alex Jones, which is what I want to get into.
InfoWars.
Is I saw a documentary on what used to be the Trio channel. I don't even think it exists anymore. But they had aired a documentary of Alex Jones's where he was examining the Skull and Bones group.
Which is the secret society of the presidents and the New World Order members.
Which had went into other conspiracy theories and such. And actually, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back and get into that.
Now exclusively on YouTube, the Vulgar Display of Podcast is a show about metal by metalheads. The Vulgar Display of Podcast does not discriminate. We share a love for any and all kinds of metal. Please do us a favor and like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share our videos. We appreciate your help and support. For more information and content, check out thewellnessinvestors.com and the Vulgar Display of Podcast.
Talking shortly here about Alex Jones, I wanted to continue that conversation because how I had found out about him was the Bohemian Grove documentary on the Trio Network. And, you know, just kind of happened to run across it. And Bohemian Grove, if you're like from it, and that one's a little bit more tight-lipped, not maybe as popular as like Skull and Bones per se, but there's a lot of like comparisons drawn to that it's like an all-inclusive males club where it's like the power figures in the world are basically bred to be the leaders of tomorrow and are already the leaders of today.
Yep.
People that have been tied in with Bohemian Grove, and this is like not necessarily partisan either. You know, these people like Skull and Bones had John Kerry, George Jr., George Sr. in it. You know, Democrats, Republicans. Bohemian Grove, and what's even weird about Bohemian Grove, also actors have been linked into it, like Danny Glover apparently is a member of the Bohemian Grove. Ronald Reagan.
That can't be true.
You know,
he was an Angels in the Outfield.
George Sr., George Jr., Alan Greenspan. I mean,
damn.
There's no limit on it. You know, those are some of the bigger names that have been
as
tied
big as
to
I
it.
am on conspiracy theories, dude. I'm surprised I've never heard of the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, and that's like that's like the only thing I'm comfortable with like suggesting anybody, you know, to look at of Alex Jones is because it's fucking mind blowing. He basically works his way. He poses as somebody else and works his way into one of these meetings. And, to explain the documentary a little bit, if it hasn't already caught your attention, is that he works his way into one of these meetings there in California. And the group itself has they go through a pagan ritual. It almost kind of seems like a Boy Scout camp almost, it seems like
It's fucking weird.
harmless and shit. But as soon as you get into the campgrounds and the seating area, there's a huge stage area with this fucking 40-foot owl, and then they do mock sacrifices. And shown in this actual documentary also is they do a sacrifice. It's a mock sacrifice of a baby being sent across. They have like a little lake right there, and sent across, and it goes across, and it goes up to the owl, and then lights the owl. It's hollow on the inside or whatever, and the eyes light up with like fire and shit.
Damn.
Yeah, it's completely nuts, and all the people on the stage wear robes and stuff. It's frightening, really, to think. I mean, I guess if you're kind of into like the Christian end of world conspiracy, one world government and that sort of thing, then something like this should definitely arouse your suspicions.
Yeah, definitely ties into the whole New World Order and the martial law and all that stuff. One world government.
Right, and one world government.
One world leader.
Other groups aside of Bohemian Grove, Skull and Bones, that we could talk about. The Freemasons is one of the longest living, known to man groups.
Oh yeah, the Freemasons are one of the key role plays,
and they're also one of the
Order.
most socially accepted. It's like
they're everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
Masonic lodges are everywhere.
Yeah, they, it's almost like some of the Elks lodges and stuff. Those are tied in with Freemasons.
Well, some Freemasons are members of those lodges.
Yeah. I'm not saying all of them are, but a lot of people don't realize it. You might be you might be a member of the Elks, and you're sitting next to a Freemason.
Yeah, and everybody knows what Freemasons are, but no one knows what they do.
Like a modern day, I mean, it's it's one of those groups that's by invite only, and people see it as like a harmless thing now. It's just like a boys' club or something. But I mean,
they hold all of America's deep secrets. Basically,
yeah. It seems a little.
Masons are.
I wish we could like get a Freemason on the show or something.
He wouldn't say nothing.
Obviously,
yeah.
But somebody maybe that's like
ex-Masonry,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe that like has seen the information that's brought him to the light or something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's tons of like bad stuff going on, and we have no idea.
Yeah.
But these associations frighten people. Also, one last group that I want to talk about before we get off here, tying in with the one world government, is the Illuminati, and they're addressed in
the Doomsday Team.
Yeah, they're addressed in Zeitgeist, and then other. I can't remember if it's in Loose Change, but I know that there's another documentary similar to both of those that it focuses more so on the Illuminati, but on money. The universal symbol for them is the one-eyed pyramid.
The all-seeing eye.
Yeah, the all-seeing eye on...
It actually says New World
currency.
Order on your dollar bill. If you guys don't know that, it says it in Latin, around the all-seeing eye.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny how, these things present themselves in everyday life and people don't realize it.
Yeah. Did you know that the base design of the Pentagon was based off a 5-point star?
Right. Which is a pagan
Yep,
symbol.
and if you lay down a map of Washington, D.C., all the big monuments in Washington, D.C. all make a 5-point star.
Yeah. Well, I've seen one
The
where
pentagram.
They've kind of... Yeah, the pentagram one.
Mm-hmm. That's in the old Loose Change movies.
Yeah, that is.
Yep. Before the big one was released last year, so...
I think they kind of dulled some of those down, too, not to be so radical so they could get people to catch on to.
Well, they just wanted people just to focus on their 9/11 theory.
Conspiracy, yeah. And it's a little sad, and I know we're getting a little general to close the show here, but it's sad people go through life and don't notice these things, like on their money, the currency, the all-seeing eye, and what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
People go through life and just don't pay attention to stuff,
And the thing that really, really bugs me is that these people that are like super religious don't see it either. You know what I'm saying? Because it all ties into Revelations.
What bothers me altogether is the fact that it's just people just dolefully go through life and don't experience anything or question anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no one does.
They don't. It's not. I'm not saying rebel against everything. I'm not.
No, but like I said earlier, educate yourself.
Right, and that's a simple way of putting it. Is educate yourself. Don't believe in something just to believe in it, or And again, this
because
is a point
everybody
that's
else
recurring
does.
on this show, right? Just because everybody else does, or because your mom told you it's this way or that way.
Same thing with politics, like we talked before on the election show.
Politics is another thing. Educate yourself. Find yourself in this world.
Yeah.
Go out and try and experience new things. Please commit to at least trying to go out and maybe look at something before, whether it be music, a movie, a documentary, a religion, whatever it may be. Please,
look at it before you pass
This is your homework
judgment.
that we give you, actually.
Yeah.
Please try and go out and experience something else this week. And hopefully maybe you guys can tell us a story on the Facebook page or our guest book on the website and let us know, something new that you tried and maybe that you find interesting. Like, we've said before, we're always open for suggestion. We would love to, hear your stories and hear what you guys think of this show all together.
Yep.
Hi, this is Barrett from ATI Podcast. Each week, Josh and I, as well as our featured guests, will discuss current events, sports, entertainment, games, movies, TV, politics, pop culture, and so much more. We're going to have local artists and small businesses to promote their work and their endeavors on our show. We are now on podcasting platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and even SoundCloud. Follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Like, share, follow, and most important, listen to the show. Just search for ATI Podcast. We want to thank you for your continued support, and hey, stay safe out there.